My name is Craig Picken. I'm an executive recruiter. More than a decade ago, I started my practice for one purpose: to use my experience as a former military aviator, business jet sales executive, and P&L leader to help aviation and aerospace companies and their executives be fast, adaptable, and strategic. I do these podcasts to inspire and inform, but more importantly, they are a focused platform to help business leaders grow. Welcome to the Aerospace Executive Podcast. So, hey, welcome back. I've got Dan Katz with me. Dan is the founder and CEO of a company called Orbital Sidekick. Orbital Sidekick, or OSK for short, is providing hyperspectral, am I right? Is that how we pronounce it, Dan?
You got it.
He's like monitoring from, he's got a new satellite business that's providing spectral monitoring for the oil and gas industry. I noticed you doing some stuff for the DoD. Mm-hmm. It's interesting what you're doing, because back in my day, we had sold some airplanes to some people who were kind of doing the same thing, using Gulfstreams mm-hmm. for environmental monitoring for the, for the same thing that you're taking up into space. So welcome to the podcast, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So now that I've totally blown OSK's business, as I introduced you, tell us what you're up to, what it's all about.
Well, so I mean, the tagline kind of is that Orbital Sidekick provides global persistent monitoring services to the energy sector by way of hyperspectral satellite imagery and analysis. But as we briefly talked about right before this, one of the big things that we're really focused on is providing real value to our end users, which are initially oil and gas pipeline operators. And we're attacking a very specific problem that's pervasive throughout infrastructure monitoring more broadly. But again, we're really focused on oil and gas pipeline monitoring specifically as our initial market play, because there's a big problem with the way that we monitor energy infrastructure today. It's very inefficient, it's costly, it's subjective. So for oil and gas pipeline monitoring specifically, you basically have these operators who have millions of miles of pipeline across just North America, and they're flying these crop dusters, basically these small Cessna aircraft, and you have a young pilot who's just trying to build up flight hours so they can move on to bigger and better things. They're flying over these pipelines and sticking their head out the window and trying to see if there's any kind of leak on these pipeline rights of way, or if there's a security threat or construction activity. And if they see something, maybe they'll jot something down, write handwritten note, or maybe a text message or phone call. And if you're lucky, you'll get like an Excel spreadsheet with some mile marker notes. It's kind of the extent of the technology involved here. And so this is kind of our first line of defense against something is a very important piece of infrastructure. Also, pipelines, they're everywhere. It's millions of miles. They're old, much like the rest of our nation's infrastructure, right? They're all 60 years old. So they leak. The pipelines account for about 40% of all methane emissions in the U.S. And that so natural gas is a big part of it, but also there's big oil spills, and there have been some very high profile incidents that unfortunately occurred. I'm from San Francisco. There's a natural gas explosion in San Bruno, which is in the Bay Area here. Unfortunately, like 8 people lost their lives. There have been other high profile incidents as well. So it's kind of it's top of mind. There's certainly an economic toll, because pipelines are it's a logistics business. You're moving product from point A to point B. So if there's a leak or some incident, you have to shut it down. The operator is going to lose money. It's not good for them. There's an environmental toll. If there's a leak, obviously there's billions in remediation or in environmental damages that have occurred, and then the remediation cost to clean up those efforts is substantial. And then, like I said, there's a human toll, right? There's been unfortunately considerable loss of life and injuries due to some of these incidents. So all of that together, and our first line of defense is some kid sticking their head out the window of the crop duster, is a bit disconcerting. And it really hasn't. And if you ask the operators themselves, they are not very, they no one really likes their aerial program. It's kind of a nuisance.
This kid doesn't really care. He's just trying to get his flight hours anyway.
I'm probably going to piss some people off if they hear this in the industry. They say, "Oh no, we're more robust than that." And that, right. But I'm taking kind of the bottom average here. And there are companies, there are operators now that are leaning into new solutions and better options. And so some have looked at, well, maybe we can do drones, but we'd have to deploy thousands of drones, and you can't do beyond line of sight anyway. So you have to have a pilot operating it and all this crap. So it's really difficult to do. Anyway, this is a problem that's tailor-made for the space sector.
Yeah,
we have this huge amount of infrastructure all across not just North America, but globally. It needs persistent monitoring, and you need the ability to see the unseen a lot of times, because 90% of pipelines are buried underground. So you're not going to see with the naked eye these huge leaks. If there's a leak, it's generally going to start developing early underground. So you need to be able to see very early like chemical changes in the surrounding environments. And so that's why hyperspectral is really critical, and pick that up. So what you'll notice is that, like, when you asked me what we're doing, I did not dive into like, oh, here's our satellites that we're building, and here's that cool technology and all that, because I'm more than happy to talk about it, and we will talk about it because it is really cool. And at my heart, I am a space geek and a nerd, and I love space. But the critical thing, and again, we talked about this right before this, is that the space industry is now becoming mature enough that I think we can focus on end users that are outside of the space industry, right? Sure. We don't have to be like, okay, I'm another. So much of the commercial space sector has been almost like incestuous in its approach to finding customers, and it's kind of like this VC is basically funding this other VC's venture, and it's all kind of staying within this closed loop space ecosystem, which is not sustainable, right? We need to demonstrate to the world that this commercial space sector, this new commercial space sector, is actually providing solutions to real world problems that are outside of the space sector. And that is what is absolutely vital for the growth. And I think people are finally latching on, right? I mean, I don't want to dismiss completely historically, because I used to work for a company called Space Systems Loral, which was kind of traditional space, and they provided value in space to sectors outside, but it was almost exclusively telecom, right? Telecom has been the dominant commercial space focus for the last few decades, right? And for good reason, because lots of good money, and that was a great use case. But everything else has just been trying to find product market fit and see how else they can expand beyond telecom. So with Earth observation, I think, beyond the US government, which is like the largest purchaser of EO data by orders of magnitude, how do you find commercial product market fit? And so that's why we've spent the last few years really making sure that our constellation of hyperspectral satellites and the information that we derive from the data that we capture can be applied to the problems of our end users and our customers, and actually provide value. And so that's why I dove right into, here's the problem we're solving initially. Now, it's pretty narrow, because the other thing too is that the trap that I think that a lot of Earth observation or other commercial space companies can fall into is, they say, well, our technology is like the holy grail of everything, and we can solve all problems that have ever existed and will ever exist, and we can do anything and everything. And if you say that, like, almost guaranteed you can do almost nothing. Like, you're not going to succeed in anything, right? So you need to make sure that you can solve at least one important problem and do that extraordinarily well. and then show that it is a scalable solution that can be applied to other markets. So that's been our hypothesis from the beginning.
Yeah,
Sorry, I've been talking a lot.
No. So you look, it goes. It's interesting. Like so what you guys are doing, Orbital Sidekick is doing. It's a real problem. I mean, going back to the mid '90s when I was with Gulfstream Aircraft, we were selling airplanes to the Danish Air Force. And what was Denmark doing with those? They were using those for coastal maritime patrol, mainly because commercial ships were dumping toxic pollutants, oil, sludge from their bilges into the Danish coastal waters. So, it would leave but once again, what are you going to do? You're going to keep an airplane up 24/7 with a crew. It's a very expensive thing. And now I'm, in the oil and gas industry. Yeah. So I'm a big investor in the pipelines. I take it you could take your imagery, match it to some sort of machine learning, and now you've got a 24-hour, 24/7 type of system where you're not worried about the kid in the crop duster who's just worried about getting his hours. You've got a legitimate system. We say we are 24/7 monitoring, and you could take that to the Sierra Club and say, hey, this is why our pipelines are much safer than years past. So it's a real deal.
It's a win-win, right? I mean, no one loses in this situation. Everyone is better for it with a better solution for monitoring infrastructure. And so because it's
how
cost
big are your
effective.
satellites?
I mean, the satellites, the great thing is, if we had built this, 10, 15 years ago, our satellites would weigh 1,000 kilograms and cost, $50 million a pop or $100 million a pop. Now we're squarely in the small sat or microsat class. So we're 100 kilograms and integrated. And so that enables us to, we leverage COTS components, but we also have space rated stuff too, kind of like the uprated components. And so, but for 100 kilos, you can launch on a SpaceX rideshare for $5,000 a kilo. So you're spending $500,000 to launch a satellite. I mean, that's nothing.
Not today.
And so, we're launching satellites fully. We build, test, launch, and commission our satellites for $4 million a pop. And that's just unheard of for the capability we're able to get. It's not unheard of anymore. It was unheard of. So it's crazy how much the system is, or how the industry has changed. Like I said before, I used to work at SSL. I was building this massive geostationary communication satellites that are as big as the conference room. And those are multi-$100 million programs. And that's just, there's still a place for some of those, but I think we're seeing a huge amount of capability being able to be extracted by these smaller sats.
Yeah, I think about Sirius XM, when Sirius XM launched 20 years ago, it was 25 years ago, it was gajillions of dollars to put their satellites up into space.
Yeah, no, even when I was at SSL from beginning of 2012 through 2016, and even in just that 4 or 5 year period, we saw the cost drop from considerably, probably by at least 25 to 40%, just within that sector.
Now I'm looking at low Earth orbit stuff and the internet from space, and it's going to be a whole new day, and it's going to be really wild to watch how this transforms. But so what's your business model? Is it, are you going to enterprise products and Marathon and all the big pipeline operators and set them up on a annual subscription? Is that kind of how it all works?
Yeah, that's the direction we're heading. So we've been operating a lot on kind of initial pilot programs and smaller initial contracts to demonstrate the viability of what we're doing. So generally, but the goal is, and we've started to get more traction on this, and we've started to get more and more of these initial contracts, is to get to either a monthly or annual subscription where what you're effectively paying for is, you're not buying a satellite, you're not buying hyperspectral data or imagery, you're paying for access to our web-based user platform that we call Sigma. So Sigma stands for Spectral Intelligence Global Monitoring Application. So yeah, it's like an enterprise SaaS platform. And so what we're doing is we're saying here, you're subscribing to this platform. You get to see your asset and all of your assets and any findings that we have. So whether that's some kind of contamination event that we've detected, or an intrusion or encroachment along the right of way, security threats, landslide events, soil disturbances. So anything that falls within as a baseline that covers the PHMSA DOT or DOT PHMSA regulatory compliance guidelines. We cover that, so that kind of eliminates your need for aircraft. And then on top of that, we provide higher value added capabilities, such as detecting underground early leaks or soil disturbances from encroachments and vegetative changes that could really indicate underlying issues that could put your asset at risk. So that's all delivered through Sigma. And so that's what you're paying for. That's the subscription model you pay for. And that can be, so Sigma is the backbone of kind of both our analytics platform and our user facing customer portal. But we built it scalably, so you can apply this to other sectors. So it's not like Sigma is monolithic and only geared towards oil and gas pipeline monitoring. We also use Sigma. So we have contracts with the Department of Defense. So with the U.S. Air Force, we have a pretty decent contract with them. And the intelligence community is very interested in what we're doing and building. So we leverage Sigma to deliver products to that sector as well.
Sure. Yeah, I saw DoD. You can use it for chem warfare type stuff or chemical events.
Sure.
Or
yeah.
Like
Lots of stuff they won't tell me about either. They'll just say, "Please, just give us the data.
Just give us access." And that's
exactly.
No doubt. That's pretty cool. I love it. Hey, so let's switch gears a little bit. You're a pretty young guy. So you came out of corporate America and you founded your company. What was the biggest challenge, or how did you get from being an R&D engineer to the CEO of a startup, and all the fun, learn about all the fundraising and all the all the challenging stuff that you're doing that nobody really knows about in the background?
Well, part of it is through osmosis. I think I was born and raised in San Francisco, so I've seen a lot. Even in I'm not that young. I would say I'm still. I'm not like a 21-year-old, undergrad from Stanford that's coming out with some crazy app idea. But I've been around. I think I've been able to see quite a bit how a couple of boom and bust cycles, and seeing how this innovation cycle has been accelerating lately. And so, when I was at SSL, we were literally right next door to Google. So, you're in that environment every day. And I obviously have lots of peers and friends and everything that were in that environment as well. So, I didn't have blinders on. And that was part of the reason so my co-founder, Tushar Prabhakar, he also has a wealth of connections within that kind of VC community as well. When the two of us were working at SSL together, we kind of saw that all this innovation occurring. We were also working at the time at SSL. We were working on the SkySat constellation for Skybox, so we were seeing kind of this firsthand. I was able to touch the new space economy that's occurring. And so, and I was working on a lot of advanced systems programs as well, with a lot of these, doing proposal work for startups that were trying to raise capital to get their business off the ground. So, we were definitely kind of in it throughout, and so it was pretty natural, right? It was kind of like, well, this is, this is the time to do it, and we're in the location to do it as well. I mean, Silicon Valley certainly breeds that kind of mentality, and so it was interesting when we decided to pull the trigger and said, well, yeah, we're going to leverage our collective backgrounds. I've got a background in astronomy and astrophysics and physics, so that's how I knew. That's kind of my technical background with hyperspectral, leveraging high spectral resolution imagery for celestial objects, but obviously now we're pointing it back down at Earth. That I also worked on some multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects before getting into space. And my co-founder Tushar had worked for some energy startups previously. He worked for Calera, which is like a carbon sequestration, turning CO2 into cement with various degrees of success. But they were a big, green energy startup. He's also worked on some other ones as well. So kind of combined all that together, and we said, well, this is the time to do it. The new space economy is taking off. We've got a great business plan and model to go after within the energy sector and leverage this new technology and this global monitoring platform in the form of small sats. So it all kind of worked together. It's like a confluence of technology and timing and product market fit. And so by the time we got around to deciding, well, yeah, we're gonna quit SSL. We're gonna work on this full time. This is our big idea. We're gonna go forward. A lot of people said, wow, I'm surprised you're taking the risk. It's a big risk for you to go do this. And my response to that really was, well, I think this was the safe play. I mean, maybe that's arrogant to say that I was betting on ourselves that much, but I was basically saying that, okay, I can either go take this chance, but what we think we're highly confident is going to be successful, or I can stay in corporate, in a big bureaucratic company that, and kind of, have a very slow career trajectory and maybe, wind up, I don't know, having a nice retirement party at some point. That seemed much riskier, right? That slow, uneasy career trajectory and being left behind, right? That felt more risky than going off and starting Orbital Sidekick.
I said it to a lot of people, if you're willing to bet on yourself, bet on yourself. I mean, it's, hey, look, if it doesn't work out, you've met a lot of investors, you've met a lot of smart people. And it's interesting that you talked about, hey, I grew up in kind of the Silicon Valley. So, it's an environment of entrepreneurship. It's an environment of ideas. You talk about, it kind of enhances that importance of surrounding yourself with really smart people, where you can, you sort of feed off each other's energy in a lot of ways.
And I also want to, we certainly did not do this by ourselves by any means. And so being in this environment and having this location, you also have a lot of passionate people within the space sector. I feel like everyone's just rooting for everyone else, right? There's not a lot of really hardcore rivalries happening yet in this, because we're still early enough that kind of, rising tide raises all boats, I think, in this sector still, with some exceptions. But for the most part, I think people are generally rooting for everyone to succeed. That helped us a lot too. I mean, we leaned on as many people who would give us free advice or mentorship, or, and we brought on great advisors to help in every area. And that's critical, right? You can't do this in a vacuum. So, we bet on ourselves. We cashed in every single favor that was owed to us, every single, third level connection on LinkedIn we could possibly leverage, just everything you possibly could do to get your foot in the door with the right people. You do, right? This is you don't hold back, right? That you just, if this is your big idea, then cash everything in and go for it. And that's how and that's how we were able.
How'd you focus on spectral analysis? I mean, your background, was it something that came out of, was it Tushar who came out of that background, or was it just a need that somebody said, hey, look, this is something that's really happening? Was it an aha moment?
It was kind of an evolution of, I had used high spectral resolution data at school when I was doing physics and astronomy. And so that was my kind of initial exposure to it, and saw how powerful it was. And also, and so since then, I'd always kept track of things like if, there would always be, crazy instruments that were sent on Mars rovers, or, lunar instruments that would, look, spectrometers to look at high spectral data, high resolution spectral data on those missions, and they could find, crazy insights on the composition of these planets. And so it just kind of made sense, what we also said, well, what is the, what's also lacking in this space infrastructure that's being built right now? And there's this huge emphasis on spatial resolution. Like, let's get the spatial pixel as small as possible, because we want to be able to read a newspaper over someone's shoulder from space, right? Like it was like it's like an obsession. And there's absolutely, great use cases for that. And I'm not trying to, knock that by any means, but it's certainly flooded with a lot of people going after that and those use cases. So we said, well, that's pretty crowded, and I think there's some smart people who are, done well there. Let's focus on, but no one's really focusing on this huge amount of depth within the pixel. Like, why are we just, okay, so yeah, okay, you get this pixel really small, but you're only getting like 3 data points out of it. You're getting like a red, green, and blue, color band. Why are we ignoring the fact that we can get hundreds of color bands within that pixel, and that opens up a wealth of information that people are just ignoring? And this is insane. So it kind of, and it's really well suited for the energy sector. So because if you're doing chemical fingerprinting, go after the petrochemical industry, go after, you can go after extraction and exploration and, offshore facilities. There's so many different things you can do within that, and then parallel industries with that, looking at exploration for mining and minerals, and rare earth elements, and lithium and cobalt, and all these great things that you can do with this technology. And it just wasn't being utilized in a scalable method. It had been kind of relegated to academia or like very small commercial applications on aircraft, or like first world governments using it for like black ops.
And now everybody can use it. I mean, I take it, a small country can, Lithuania, if they need it, they can pay you some money, sign up, dial into the website, kind of get a geo placement and start to do, or is it that simple? No.
It's not, well, it's a little bit more complicated, partly because there are still some regulations on what type of hyperspectral data we can disseminate to certain organizations. So because our data is unique and very high resolution, we have restrictions placed on us by NOAA, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association. So we have a commercial remote sensing license that limits some of our ability to directly distribute our highest resolution data, not just to foreign countries, but even to just even domestic commercial entities. So this is actually part of the reason why we don't sell hyperspectral imagery directly to our customers, because we extract the information from that imagery and then just deliver the information. Like here's the GPS location of your leak, as opposed to here's the hyperspectral data set. You figure it out.
Here's what it looks like.
We can give them a kind of a false color representation of what that leak will look like, but we don't put the onus on our customers to do the analysis. Like I've got a room full of PhDs that do that, right? Like it's a complicated process, and it's controlled by regulation and ITAR and all these other things. So Although, but we can partner with foreign governments as well. And actually, we are required. Like if I took imagery over Lithuania itself, I would have to offer the Lithuanian government access to that imagery. But if Lithuania wanted imagery over the U.S., that would be a different story.
Different story, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that simple.
Yeah. So and this is a problem that any commercial remote sensing company, space company has, or maybe not a problem, but it's something you have to work with NOAA to work within the confines of these regulations, because these are powerful technologies, but I mean, so that's the great thing about satellites, and the terrible thing about satellites is that you can access anywhere, anytime. I mean, it's pretty crazy, but so you have to put some some checks and balances in there. Yeah.
So two things along those lines. So and I don't know about it. So people talk about, hey, look, space is a big place, but everybody's talking about kind of the low Earth orbit or just above low Earth orbit getting very crowded. A lot of space junk up there. Is that real? Is it fiction? What's the what's that going to look like, and what's that going to look like in 20 years? How long are your satellites good for? I take it there. They do come back into Earth.
They do, and another plug for NOAA here. They do require you in your license to have a decommissioning plan, and so it's kind of standard practice to have your satellite fall back into the atmosphere within 20 or 25 years of commissioning, I think. And so but to answer your question, your first part, which is really important, yes, I am concerned. I think everyone, even if they're not vocal about it, everyone in the industry is concerned about space debris and having a disaster event where you have an exponential propagation of debris a debris field that basically denies us access to low Earth orbit for a century. That's kind of the worst case scenario. It does make me nervous when Elon Musk says that he's going to launch 42,000 Starlink satellites in the next 6 or 7 years. I don't have a great solution to this. I know there are some companies that are working on it. I think there's a company, Astroscale or something, some Japanese company is looking at about ways to do kind of debris mitigation, and there's some other kind of thought leaders in that area too. But yeah, I think it is something that we're not trying to launch thousands of satellites. Like I said, we have a constellation of 6 satellites, which we think is a modest number that gives us a very wide range of coverage. But yeah, if you're doing, if you're trying to provide internet or some kind of mega constellation, then you need these huge numbers, and it is. I think everyone should be conscious of it, and therefore there should be a plan to help mitigate those efforts when you're doing these mega constellations.
What scares the hell out of you the most? I mean, is it like you said, you've got a room of PhDs? Obviously it's what you're doing requires a very technical mindset to grow your business. Are you able to get the people? You talk about space debris and that. What do what challenges? What's the biggest challenge you fear most about your business?
Well, I think that there are getting good people in it is always a challenge. I think that's a good thing in a good way, right? I mean, there's a lot of, a lot of good companies out there that are competing for similar talent pools. And so, but yeah, that's always been a challenge, and we're going through a rapid hiring process right now. And, but I think we've been getting good candidates. I mean, space debris is something that's a bit, it's something that I'm always concerned about, but it's not, top of mind necessarily at this point. And I'm happy that there are at least some people that recognize it's a problem and are trying to do something about it. So that's at least a good step. the right direction. Our biggest thing right now is the double-edged sword of Silicon Valley is that, yes, there's lots of innovation and so access to capital and you can grow your company. That also means that everyone else has that same opportunity as well. So you have to constantly be looking at the surrounding competitive environment. And while I did just earlier say that I think that no one has intense rivalries right now, and rising tide raises all boats, I think that we're getting to a point where we are going to have a shakeout of who's going to rise to the top. And then there's either going to be failures or consolidation or acquisitions or whatever that's going to be. And so especially right now, when you're looking at the crazy investment environment we're in today, where a company could effectively come out of nowhere and do a SPAC, and all of a sudden they have a huge amount of capital on their hands, and can throw that around and really disrupt this area, and perhaps pick a winner that maybe does not deserve to be a winner because they don't really have, it's like the old Betamax versus VHS kind of a thing, or whatever it's gonna be, right? Like the best technology and the best solution doesn't always win if the scales are weighted against you. And so this SPAC instrument is, it's crazy because I think it can definitely tip the scales in a direction that maybe wouldn't naturally evolve in that direction, and that can create, I think that could do some damage. While at the same time, it's also sorry.
I'm seeing some stupid stuff. I really, in the aviation aerospace, some SPACs are coming. I was looking at one today, and I was going to write a very sarcastic blog about it, and I thought, I'll just keep my thoughts to myself. But I'm seeing stuff out there with $3-4 billion valuations. All of a sudden, you're like, what's the business case behind this? So I get it. What's your? Where do you see you're obviously you've raised a lot of capital. You've got a couple satellites up in orbit. You're doing your thing. You've got some customers. What do you see this? What's your ultimate goal? You've got 6 satellites now. Is it 10 and taking it into some new, some new verticals, or what? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, so the 6 satellites that we'll have once we have those all deployed, that will certainly service our initial pipeline monitoring market. But then we have capacity to expand within the energy sector and the defense sector to cover some new products. So that's really our goal right now, and to stay within like energy and defense. I think that those are our sweet spots. There's been a lot of people keep pushing agriculture, which I'm a bit more bearish on. It's also very crowded, that field, but energy, I think there's a huge amount of room for growth there. So we are focused on midstream right now, but going downstream to fixed facilities and monitoring those, like refineries, which we're already doing actually today, going upstream to wells, oil wells and facilities there, which again, we're also still doing today, but just not at scale. I think exploration, which I mentioned before, is really a really high growth area for us, and not for, I don't know if I buy that, traditional energy exploration, like searching for new oil fields is necessarily like a high growth, like really long-term play at this point. It is, at least for the next few years, but I think that what everyone's recognizing is that, new energy exploration is going to be really important. Energy storage materials like lithium and cobalt are really vital, rare earth elements, that kind of exploration, and then new natural gas sources. So non-carbon fossil fuels like hydrogen. Those are areas that hyperspectral can really aid in those exploration events and help unlock these $1 trillion new energy economies. And so that is where I see Orbital Sidekick making a lot of headway over the next few years within that energy and defense sector. And then and then on the defense sector side, we're just getting a lot of interest from the intelligence community in general. So
Gotcha.
I can't talk a whole lot about specifics on it, but that obviously is another area. And then the last plug I want to make, because I think it's important too, and it falls within the energy sector, but I think it also falls within the broader kind of sustainability area, because I think it's, there's a lot of focus on, methane monitoring.
Right.
And there's like GHGSat and some other companies are doing a great job with, objectively monitoring and characterizing methane plumes from super emitters. And that's like fantastic. And I love that effort they're doing. We have the capability to monitor for methane emissions with our capability. It's not our main focus, but another thing that we're focusing on, though, certainly we want to help reduce our global carbon footprint, as is everyone, right? One thing we've discovered is that almost 20% of the global carbon footprint is due to global wildfires. And wildfires is a huge problem, and a huge amount of that is man-made from things like electric power lines.
Mm-hmm.
So we're also working, we'll be working with utilities later this year to help monitor electric power lines and identifying high-risk areas, basically a fire risk tool, if you will. So monitoring, so like again, California,
PG&E on California,
huge issues, right? We have fire season all year round now, basically. Can we help PG&E by showing them, they have so many miles of power lines, they can't consistently monitor them. Right. With manpower, they need a persistent monitoring source. So satellites are great for that. And moreover, they need to know what are the highest risk areas, because they can't deploy everyone to all places at all times. So it's a big tool for us that we'll be deploying in the second half of this year. So that's kind of the other side of energy, beyond like oil and gas, looking at actual electric utilities. Our board member, Nick Stavropoulos, is actually the former president of PG&E. So we've got some good people in our corner there, and so I think that's a good way that it's a product that, of course, we think is a solid one. We can certainly make money off of it, but more than that, we can actually make a real big difference
it's a
in
good
the world,
thing.
and so really happy about that.
What did you find the biggest challenge going from kind of I was a corporate guy to startup guy to CEO? Now you're running you're running your company. What was the biggest mindset change that you had to make?
I think going from working as a technical focused person who likes to get their hands dirty and work with hardware and work with analysis and things like that, and then basically doing a series of crash courses through incubators and accelerators and online courses, and just sitting down with mentors and advisors over the last few years, just to really kind of do a customized MBA program, if you will, to recognize that my job now is not, my team does not need me to get in there and do the analysis or build the sensors or things like that. My job is to hire people who are smarter than me, who can execute those positions and who can move forward and help to scale our culture of innovation and agility. And actually the three biggest, I think culture is really big, and being able to be the leader in terms of helping to sustain that culture as we grow. That's actually been really interesting too, because we spent the first couple of years, just kind of a very small group within Orbital Sidekick. It was myself and my co-founder for the first year. Then we brought in our first employee. Then we kind of scaled a little bit slowly in the beginning. Now we're growing very quickly. So understanding how we scale and grow, that's a huge challenge to evolve into. But again, leaning on mentors and advisors is critical. Recognizing that as long as I stick to our basic tenets within our culture, which for us are equity, ownership, and transparency, and really hammering that home to our team and making sure everyone's aligned on that. That's just been really important. So, it's a bit of, sure. I think I've evolved quite a bit, but so has everyone over the last few years. And I think, it was a little bit of a sink or swim, but I think I thrived in that environment.
Who's been your best mentor? Board members or equity guys, or
I think we've had,
who's helped you out the most?
I'm going to take the political response here because I don't want to piss anyone off.
We can skip that.
But,
Maybe not.
No. I was going to say, everyone's been great. I think I've had some people who are, board members have actually been, have been amazing. And I've already gave a shout out to Nick. But I think we had some early advisors on the energy side who really helped us really understand the oil and gas sector and the problems, like the very specific problems there that were critical. And we had some folks on the incubator side that really helped us out too. I'll give a shout out to Ellen Chang at Syndicate 708, previously at Lightspeed Innovations. She's done an amazing job and deserves more recognition in the industry. So it definitely takes a village, and I've been very fortunate to have strong support.
That's it's a great place to be. Congratulations on all the success. I was looking through your website and reading a bunch of stuff, and it's really fun to see how far you've come, and really not a long time. It's been a pretty 5-6 years now is all, right? And from
it's been
concept to
I guess the from cocktail napkin till now, it's been about 5 years. Yep.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good track record when you think about what it takes to get satellites up into space and all the backbone behind it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. No, it's been quite a ride.
So you come back on and tell us your success down the road?
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to come back on anytime.
So Dan, thanks. Dan Katz with CEO, co-founder of Orbital Sidekick. How do people what's your website?
Orbitalsidekick.com. Trying to make it pretty easy for folks.
Is there a way people can get a hold of you?
You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can email us, the company, at info@orbitalsidekick.com. Great way to get a hold of us.
Thanks for coming on, Dan. Appreciate it. Thanks
very much. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the latest edition of the Aerospace Executive Podcast. You can reach out to me directly, Craig at northstaresg.com, or check us out at www.northstaresg.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, or on YouTube. Just do a search for Aerospace Executive Podcast. Thanks again. I'm Craig Piven.